Colonel, I'm trying to record a podcast. All right.
Not like that. Okay. We're back.
Unfortunately. We're back.
We're doing a part 2.
We got 2010. 2010? Is this 2010?
Yeah, I think so.
2010 and on.
2010 through 2010 through 2021.
Yeah, which is a wonderful array of movies. Starting with Iron Man 2. It's okay.
I'll just get out of the way that these movies are very fundamentally different from the other ones we talked about.
Yeah, even Iron Man 1 feels different, but not in the same way. I feel like Iron Man 1 is definitely the beginning.
Iron Man 2 does not feel different from Iron Man 1. Iron Man 2 is Iron Man 1, but not as good.
But more boring.
More boring.
And with a bird, for some reason.
The villains in this movie are Justin Hammer and Whiplash?
Yeah.
Whiplash, he's like a Russian guy. There's a part where Justin Hammer's like, hey, do you want anything? We can get you something. And he goes, I want my bird.
Yeah. There's this YouTuber called Schaefer Ellis that absolutely loves what's his name? Hammond? What's his name?
Justin Hammer?
Justin Hammer.
Oh, he's awesome.
He adores Justin Hammer.
Sam Rockwell is hilarious.
He's convinced me that I too like Justin Hammer, but that's the only part of that movie they like.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell is likable in any movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not that fun. It's a lot of Avengers setup too.
Whiplash is just kind of boring. Like he walks up, he's swinging his things around. Iron Man's like he could have just walked away and shot a missile at him or something.
This is the only movie that made an effort to deal with Iron Man's alcoholism.
Yeah.
And
which I liked. I liked Rhodey and him.
It's all right.
Their little repulsor blast comic book looking thing where they shoot each other, but it was okay.
It's boring.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So I don't think it's bad, but I think fine.
Yeah. It's fine.
I know nothing about Hex.
Just to reestablish our ranking system here, we have
God tier,
excellent,
good,
fine,
bad,
terrible,
garbage. So we got three good tiers, 3 bad, and then a middle.
Middle ground.
But next we got Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex. Bad. Worse than bad. It's terrible.
Terrible?
Might be garbage. I don't know.
It looks like Freddy Krueger.
So Jonah Hex is a DC character who he's a cowboy, and a lot of the time he gets into like multiverse hijinks. Okay. But because this movie didn't get weird like that, like he's a time traveling cowboy a lot of the time, or rather, time travelers encounter him. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do that. It's just a cowboy movie.
Okay.
It's not enjoyable. It's a lot of weird CGI. I don't know. Josh Brolin is Jonah Hex. It's not good.
Fine. That's fine by me. So Jonah Hex is terrible. Confirmed.
It's not unwatchable, I don't think.
Kick-Ass I've heard is really good.
I've never seen it.
I've heard that it's good. I know nothing about it. I'm going to look up some photos here. I feel confident in judging this movie just by its appearance.
I always see this movie with the meme of like Evan Peters and Aaron Taylor Johnson are both in this movie, and people are like, "Ooh, both Quicksilvers together."
Okay, well if this has Evan Peters in it, ooh, this what pretty Aaron Johnson. I did not know Aaron Johnson was such a pretty man. Okay, I'm gonna put it in good just because I've heard good things.
I've heard good things about it.
Evan Peters and Aaron Johnson. Yeah, good.
Both Quicksilvers in one movie?
Okay, next up, we got Megamind. Megamind, this is inarguable, Peyton. I apologize.
It's good.
God
no.
tier. It is a beautiful parody of every single... Before superhero movies really got their tone and fitting, it parodies everything about superhero movies expertly, has a lovable villain to hero redemption arc that's not like forced. It has great voice acting that's amazing. The soundtrack is good. There's so many quotable lines. Great movie.
Is it as good as The Incredibles?
I would say yes. It is. It to me, it was
No.
as influential in my life.
There is no way. It's good. It's not even excellent.
I will
it's
move
good.
it. I'll move it to excellent. But
It's
that is
Megamind.
it. It's Megamind.
It's
It's
not,
Megamind.
It's not a life-changing movie.
That was a life-changing movie, even as a kid.
It's a good movie.
It's making its resurgence. People are realizing how good this
You're
movie
being very
is.
loud. I'm gonna scoot the mic over here a little bit.
Okay. All I'm saying, if
It's
I
a-
can quote 20 different lines from this movie and 90% of people know what I'm talking about,
It's a fun
It's a good
parody of
movie.
superhero movies. I don't think it reinvents the wheel at all.
no.
I don't think it's that revolutionary. It's just Megamind.
It
It's fun. It's a very fun movie. I enjoy it a lot. It's not.
Moving on. Megamind is excellent.
No.
You said
It
good.
belongs in good.
You said good. I said God tier, excellence, middle ground.
I know you. I know you're memeing on me.
I'm not memeing on you.
I know you don't believe
This is
Megamind
one of my favorite movies.
Daniel, you can't. You put Megamind in the same tier as Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
I don't believe you. Whatever. Captain America: The First Avenger.
It's good.
Yeah.
I actually really like. I think it. I like that what they did because Captain America is a superhero that is meant to be around. You know, like a world war, whether World War I or World War II, depending on whatever comics.
It's always been 2.
I feel I may be remembering this wrong, but I feel like there was a comic that wrote it differently. But anyway, World War II, and then he comes to the present day, and it's weird, right? But I think this movie sets up his origin well. I know people say it's boring, it's not interesting, but I think the core of Captain America is he is like the honest, the righteous person with.
I don't think it's boring at all. I don't think it's boring. This movie's fun, and
Mhm.
it's an interesting, like, kind of step back from what superhero movies were doing at the time. It's a product of Joe Johnson just kind of doing his own thing with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's not as good as the other two Captain America movies.
Mhm.
I think it's the weakest link there. It's a great first Captain America movie.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also a good first look at a different superhero because before this we have Iron Man,
Yeah.
and I thought Thor came out before this, but they came out relatively the same
Thor
time.
did come out after
Mhm.
before this. Came out like 2 months before this movie.
Thor did.
Yeah.
Well, it's up here.
They're alpha. It's
Yeah. Okay.
Don't worry about it.
So Captain America and Thor came out about the same time. Thor before it. So we have the first 3 Avengers set up, and they have no crossover.
We also got the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, but I don't care about that movie. So
That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
all I'm saying is that these 3 movies, as far as we know, are completely separate from one another. There's not like a cinematic crossover where we see any of these characters in the universe. We see kind of like
Technically not,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
but-
exists.
But there was Iron Man 2 is all set up.
Yeah.
And this movie even goes out of its way to be like, "Oh, did you hear it's Howard Stark?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear it's Howard Stark?"
Yeah. And so that's what
Nick Fury's in the end of it.
for it to be set, for this to then continue and to set up, especially the end sequence of him waking up and he's in modern day New York and it's S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever. I think it does a good job of being its own movie while also contributing to the cinematic universe.
It's a great standalone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot of old people attached to that movie. I think it's because it's a World War II movie,
Yeah.
but it's nice and standalone.
And to me, these first 3 movies, Iron Man 1, Thor, and Captain America, are the end and the beginning of superhero movies being their own self-contained movie, having tonality. And then once
Sure.
Avengers comes out, everything changes, where it all has to kind of fit into the grander picture.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like Captain America is at least good. I think that the soundtrack is phenomenal. I love every
good.
single
Yeah.
song in it. I love the characters. Every character's lovable. Carter, of course, is such a lovable character. She literally gets her own show.
It's her own TV series.
So I would like to put it into excellent, but I feel like
It's good.
there are some things that hold it back.
It's better than Megamind.
Shaking my head.
I think that's all I have to say about Captain America.
Yeah.
Chris Evans is a great choice
True.
for the character.
For sure. And I think I watched like behind scenes stuff of like them CGIing him into the skinny body or whatever. It was really cool.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The movie has like a slow middle.
Yeah.
A very strong start, very strong
Mm-hmm.
back half, slow like quarter.
And I kind of like the idea that Captain America was still a nobody, kind of, after he got the serum. Like, he, got the serum, and they're like, well, you're not a soldier, soldier. Go be a show performer. And I especially love him drawing himself as the monkey on the unicycle.
Yeah.
That's a cool moment.
That's a good scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole bit of the movie before it gets into more superhero-y stuff is great. The the leather jacket cap look is really good.
I think it's really cool that Captain America, even though he was given the serum, has this theme of you earn it because you're good and you're a righteous person.
Also, one of the better villains in this phase of Marvel movies.
I was going to say, I think one of the weakest things is the way they use Red Skull. I like him, but, he wasn't that central to most of it.
By one of the stronger villains, I mean, he's not as good as Loki, but he's better than Whiplash.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, that's all I had to say about that.
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. It's terrible.
Hal Jordan deserved better.
Yeah, and it's I said this about like Catwoman, but Green Lantern, they ran with Green Lantern before Wonder Woman, before The Flash, before Guardians of the Galaxy. Like now in 2021 it makes sense. It makes sense to do a Green Lantern movie. It makes perfect sense.
And Green Lantern is
not
a cool
in 2011.
Character. Yeah, he's a cool character, but he is weird. He's in space. He's got all the different lanterns and everything.
Which they don't. This is a very lore-heavy character.
Yeah.
And I think now you could be like, there are different rings and they're on an emotional spectrum, and they didn't do it then because it was hard.
Yeah.
And I don't fault them for that, but they should have either made it super weird or just not made it because it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
It's not kind of it's very boring. I don't particularly like Ryan Reynolds as Hal.
Yeah.
He's okay.
To me, I feel like the human of Hal Jordan feels like a casual comic book fan. Like the way that he's presented. He's like, shit, I got the ring. It's cool. Look at this suit. Dude, look. Where like, I think there's the scene where he like touches the lantern and like the suit comes on. He's like, yo, look. Isn't this epic? And it's like that. There's more to it than I don't know. It felt like it was
Hal
a very
needs to be more stoic than Ryan Reynolds ever is, and he's cocky in this movie, but I don't know. It feels like we're watching Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and with that, it feels like a shallow representation of the Green Lantern, where he's like, "Yo, look at this cool stuff I can do," rather than like really exploring it. He just does it, and then that's the end of it. Like. It felt like more like an action movie, and then the final battle at the end with the fear monster, I forget what his name is
Parallax.
Parallax is just not interesting at all.
It's looks like a big cloud of poop. I mean, there's nothing we could say about Green Lantern that people haven't already said, but it deserves better. I think Green Lantern could go for being much more grounded than this. I think especially for a first movie. They went, let's go to space and let's do all this stuff, and they just didn't. We weren't ready for that yet.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know. I mean, hey, pair him up with Green Arrow next time. Do a buddy cop movie. I think that'd be sick.
Yeah. Next,
James Gunn's Super. Have you seen this movie?
No.
It's a parody of, I guess, superheroes. I don't think it's a parody of anything in particular. This movie and Kick-Ass came out around the same time, but Kick-Ass is more of a like exaggerated, fun sort of thing. Super is Rainn Wilson, and he's walking around the streets and he's hitting people with a wrench.
Okay. And
the wrench will crack their skull open. It's fun. I'd put it in fine.
Okay.
It's probably James Gunn's worst movie on this list we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean it looks like a fine.
We'll watch it sometime. I think you'll feel iffy about it.
Okay. Oh, Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet. Seth Rogen in this movie?
I don't remember.
I don't even remember.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, there's... Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I don't want to talk about the Green Hornet.
Okay. The fact that Green Hornet and Green Lantern came out so close to one another is also a disservice to both of those movies.
And Arrow started that year.
Did it?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's talk about a movie that's not bad. Thor. First Thor, I'd put it up with Captain America. I think it's good.
No. Have you seen Thor in a while?
Yeah.
It's boring.
I feel like it to me, I was interested in it because I'm interested in mythology. And I like...
And they don't use any of that mythology.
It's there.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's like I'm watching a Percy Jackson movie. Look, Thor does not use any of its characters in an interesting way except for Loki. Every opportunity they had to do Thor stuff in this, which, again, Green Lantern scenario, you might not be able to do crazy Thor stuff in the first movie, but they start with it.
Yeah.
Usually you'd have like an entry character to be like, wow, look at this crazy world. But you start with Thor, who's lived in this world, and then he comes to Earth. And he's like, I don't understand Earth. It's a fish out of water scenario, but it's a really dumb one.
I don't know. I liked it.
It's boring.
It
doesn't make sense that Thor would be bumbling around Earth.
I mean, I kind of like the theme of like, well, Thor is kind of a pompous jerk who doesn't really know anything but pretends to and is arrogant. And I like the dynamic, especially of him and Loki, where it's like Thor is given the birthright but doesn't deserve it.
They barely interact in this movie.
Yeah, I know. But like I think the scene like where they go invade the ice giants and then Odin's like, yeah, you're in trouble. Get out of here. I know Thor hasn't... I think one of my biggest qualms is that we didn't see more of Thor prior to being sent to Earth. I think that is the biggest problem. I think it's part of like what you're talking about. But I like his moments. I like that trope of like the hero is now without their powers. And especially that moment where he's trying to pick up the hammer and he can't is such a big emotional beat for me. I love that scene. I love everything Jane related in that movie too.
Don't.
That's fair, but I don't know. I think I like...
What's compelling about Jane Foster?
I don't think the character per se has anything interesting, but I think the group being like these astrophysicists or whatever, I don't know.
So, okay, the group. You've got Dr. Selvig,
Darcy,
who is an old man. He's probably the most interesting of the three. Jane Foster, who, she's Natalie Portman. She's cool. She's whatever. And then you have Darcy, who's annoying. She's the comedy relief character, but she's not funny.
I thought it was okay. Again, I'm not saying this is the best movie in the world. This is why I would put it in good. But I can understand putting it in fine.
I'd put it in bad.
Put it in bad?
I'd put it in bad. It's less interesting than Iron Man 2. At least Iron Man 2 has Iron Man in it. Well, Thor barely has Thor in it.
You let me put Megamind in excellent, so I will put Thor in bad.
Fine. Good. It deserves to be there.
Okay.
And I'll fight you over Thor 2 as well, because that movie's garbage.
I think we'll probably agree on that one.
Okay.
Next, we have the first Transformers movie.
Huh? No.
Is
That's
the
the
second
third
one?
Transformers movie.
We already did the first and second?
This is Transformers Dark of the Moon.
Bruh. That was my least favorite one.
Not me. Have you seen Transformers 4?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That's what this one made me stop watching them.
I like Transformers 3. I wouldn't say it's good. I'd say it's probably bad, but it's a fun. It's epic. It's like huge in scale. It's very long. It's Linkin Park soundtrack. I don't know. I think it's a climactic ending for the Transformers saga, and then they made more of them.
Yeah.
But let's pretend that's the last one because the other two. I haven't seen the fifth one, but 4 is really bad.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited to talk about this one. X-Men First Class, God tier.
I think it's excellent. I think it's beaten by First Class. I think it's beaten by Days of Future Past.
I can't agree with that, but I'll put it in excellent. To talk about First Class, I can see why it does have some things that hold it back from being God tier. It is excellent in the sense of it has a great cast. Everyone is perfect for the roles that they play. I think you could argue that Mystique's not perfect Mystique, but the version of Mystique that she plays is good.
In First Class, she's good.
Yeah, I like what she has there. There's no logical way to say that, what's her name? Jennifer Lawrence?
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique turns into X1's Mystique ever. There's no way that would ever happen.
Sure.
But I think I love the characters that they are portraying. Everyone loves...
McAvoy and Fassbender are really excellent
Mm-hmm.
as Xavier and Magneto.
I think they're the strongest part of that movie.
Yeah,
They
for sure.
they set up after watching First Class, it makes the scene in X3 where Jean disintegrates Xavier so much more emotional. I love the way that Xavier loves people. I think it makes Professor X such a complex and interesting character. Just how innocent he seems to be, and how much he just wants people to care about one another. And I don't know. I think there's so much emotion in that movie that's just portrayed quickly and expertly.
Yeah, it's a great X-Men prequel. I think the rest of the team is kind of meh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, X-Men First Class. If Days of Future Past didn't exist, I think I might appreciate this movie a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's topped by a sequel that
Mm-hmm.
goes above and beyond in every way.
Yeah.
Please take Megamind out of excellent.
I suppose I have to downgrade Megamind to good.
Megamind doesn't belong in the same category as X-Men First
That's
Class.
the only reason I'm putting it down. I personally believe that Megamind is a good movie, but for the sake of the list...
I think it's a good movie too. It's good.
I think it is an excellent movie, but for the sake of the list, I'll move it down to good.
Thank you.
I think one of my biggest qualms with the X-Men First Class is that they kill Darwin when that's his thing. Like, that's one of the dangers of Darwin
everything.
is that if he were to adapt to, say, a nuke, he may destroy the planet in order to stay alive. Like, that is his thing. But, it's fine.
Really cool score in that movie. Really great score. Bad Magneto costume at the end.
Yeah, that is fair.
Magneto's manhunt in that movie is really compelling.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of the movie. Is just Magneto in general, especially he's when Eric is just going through this emotion thing, and they're trying to teach him to use positive emotion to channel his powers. I think that's cool.
I mean, honestly, that probably comes from the fact that this movie started as X-Men Origins Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
X-Men First Class is really good.
True.
Next up, we've got Chronicle.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't? It's fine. It's a good movie. It's Dane DeHaan and Michael B. Jordan and some other guy. It's like a found footage movie.
Okay.
Where Dane DeHaan's character, they're teenagers and they go to a party, and then the three of them get superpowers from this rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have telekinesis, right? And so they can fly and they make themselves fly, and they start to kind of get a swelled head about their superpowers. They come into conflict. It's good. I'd say put it in fine.
Says it's good. Also says put it in fine.
Put it in fine. It's fine. It's good for what it is.
Okay. Next is Dread.
Dread. I've heard an incredible amount of praise for this movie and still haven't seen it.
I'll put it just because I know nothing about it. I'll put it in fine.
Based on what I've heard about it, I put it in good, but I also haven't seen it.
Okay. So Dread preliminarily put in good.
Yeah, I'll see Dread at some point.
Well, yeah.
I've heard it's excellent.
I've heard okay things about it. I haven't heard much about it though.
Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
I think fine. It could be bad.
I think it's terrible.
I think it's terrible.
The Ghost Rider effects in this movie are really cool.
I think especially for the time, I don't know.
It was 2012. I don't know if we can say for the time.
It feels old. To me, it feels older than it is. I guess.
You sure you're not thinking of Ghost Rider 1?
I am thinking of Ghost Rider 1.
Okay.
Then I've never seen this one.
Ghost Rider 2 is a sequel to Ghost Rider 1. It's not a reboot. It's Nicolas Cage.
Okay, so it has Nicolas Cage in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They vastly improved the effects. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and be like, whoa!
Mm-hmm.
Like, the skull looks sick. The flames will, like, billow smoke out of the top.
Okay.
It looks great. We should watch the trailer some other time.
Okay.
And not the movie because it's bad.
Yeah.
But, it suffers from sort of the same problems that the first one does. It's weird. It's schlocky. It's way too over the top.
Yeah.
And it's just not very enjoyable. I think Ghost Rider deserves a lot more.
That's fair.
Than what it got. I commend Nicolas Cage for his passion for Ghost Rider because I think he really does have it. But I just think they misstepped here.
Mm.
Men in Black 3. Yeah, fine. I don't care.
I'm putting Men in Black 3 in good because I think I really love. I think they're J and K. I can't remember. They have one syllable or one character name. Is their names?
Yeah.
And the aspect of time erasing K or whatever, and then J like going back. I don't know. It's a really cool premise. And while I don't like the villain's not fun.
I think it's
really.
I think it's the second best Men in Black movie. I think the first one's better.
I whatever, Will Smith. Will Smith's character I feel like is a lot more enjoyable as this version of him.
He's older. He's a little more experienced, but he still feels like
funny.
That character.
Yeah.
So they go back in time and they have to stop. The villain's name in this movie is Boris the Animal.
That's right.
There's a part they have to stop him from like stopping the launch of the moon landing.
No, they stop him from like hijacking it.
Okay. To do what?
He like has something that he is going to attach to it that is going to like
bring aliens to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right.
And so they attach their little shield thingy to it to like prevent that from happening.
Yeah. There's a part where Will Smith keeps going back in time
to
stop him, and every time he comes in he goes, "Hey!
Yeah.
Boris the Animal!"
I love that he like drinks chocolate milk to bring his like memory back or whatever at the beginning. So,
I don't even remember that.
When he time travels,
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's the only person who remembers his partner, K or whatever. I'm going to say his name is K.
Okay.
He's the only person who remembers him. And he goes over to the house of where he normally lives, and some woman is living there. And he's like, what? And he's like, can I have some chocolate milk? And he's like, doesn't know why he's craving chocolate milk, and he drinks it. And I think it just like settles his headache or whatever, but it's kind of like a funny, goofy thing. Like he drinks chocolate milk and time travel shit.
I like the time travel effect.
Mm-hmm. I think it
when
looks
he jumps
cool.
off the building.
Yeah.
I don't care if you put it in good, but I personally I don't really see any reason for it to be like I don't know if it's not particularly bad. I don't think it's particularly like super good. I think it's like super middle of the road.
I'm also going off of my memory from several years ago.
Drink chocolate milk.
I'm not time displaced now. Anyway, I do really like this movie.
Yeah, it's whatever. I'm not gonna fight you over Men in Black 3.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
I would say it's fine. It's totally fine. It's a different retelling of the Spider-Man origin. I think Andrew Garfield is good. He's too cool to be Peter Parker.
I think he becomes mean when he's Spider-Man. Like there's that scene where he's like with the mugger and he's like pretends to sneeze and like hits his crotch or whatever.
He's a little crude too.
Mm-hmm.
I think this version of Spider-Man. I think the character of Peter Parker Spider-Man is better in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. But I think in general, this version of Spider-Man, they got the Spider-Man is funny. Mm-hmm. But I don't really think they got the Spider-Man as a good guy out of it. He's a good person and he means well. But yeah, it's just like that. He's kind of and mischievous. He's not particularly heroic.
He seems like he's the Peter before Peter's learned responsibility.
Yeah.
I feel like the Uncle Ben death doesn't really like do much for him. We see him like grieve over it, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not as impactful as the first Spider-Man
I think most of the
origin,
emotional beats in general of this movie is not amazing. I like the villain. I think the action's cool.
The lizard was an interesting way to go with it.
I like the lizard trying to turn people into lizards, but
I think it's really dumb.
I don't understand the motivation, but I think it looked cool. I was like, oh, they're turning into lizards. Nice.
I think,
but it doesn't make sense.
I think Emma Stone is really good as Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have that much to do in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
but she's good. Again, Andrew Garfield is a good Peter. He's not great, I don't think, but I think that's the material as well.
And the scene with him, like with the basketball, and he like shows off, feels like the antithesis of Peter. Because
Yeah.
Peter's like, I'm going to pretend to still be this goofy, clumsy kid to hide my powers, so that I'm protecting the people, and also like just so I'm not. If I couldn't,
But I'm
do
gonna
that
dunk
before,
on Flash real quick.
Yeah, yeah. I know in like one of the animated series, there's like I think it's Taskmaster's like around, and like all of the like White Tiger and Iron Fist and Luke Cage are showing off in gym class, and Taskmaster's their substitute gym teacher, and Peter's he continues to be a goofy like clumsy kid because he's like, if I couldn't do that before, I'm not going to do it now. And then they all get dunked on, but Spider-Man doesn't because he was responsible, whatever. And they don't do that in this at all.
No. I've come around to the suit. I used to hate the suit. It looks wet all the time. I don't like the yellow lenses.
It used to be my favorite suit. It's not anymore.
I think my two biggest qualms with the suit. I really like how it kind of has the basketball texture, like the inward webs. Good way to set it apart from the Raimi one. I think the two biggest qualms I have with the suit are that it's the yellow eyes, and there's nothing really separating the bottom half of it from the top. There's no like belt or anything.
I do like one of my favorite things in this movie is that we see him be smart. Like he makes his own webs and stuff. We see him invent the web shooters, which is cool.
I love the texture of the webs. They feel like tensile strength when they hit, and it's like you can really feel the pull.
They feel like metal web almost.
Yeah,
which is cool.
I think that's like it's okay. It's a good enough Spider-Man movie. I really like the part where the New Yorkers move all the cranes so he can swing to Oscorp Tower.
That's a little fun.
It's fun. The Avengers is a movie that is slept on.
Where would you put it?
I would put it in excellent.
Excellent.
Yes.
Without
a doubt in my mind,
I would put it in good only because I feel like the characters that are not introduced in their own movies are not introduced super well.
I think Black Widow is.
Black Widow's the best of the ones that is introduced.
So you're saying Black Widow and Hawkeye?
Yes, but also Mark Ruffalo version of the Hulk. I know.
He's great.
I know he technically that Hulk is this Hulk or whatever, and. Let me backpedal here real quick and say my biggest problem is the way Hawkeye is introduced. He's introduced and he's there. Of course, he's had like one or two lines in the whole MCU so far, right?
Sure.
And then he's mind controlled and he's the bad guy. And so if you don't know who Hawkeye is, you're just like, oh, this is like some random spy that just happens to be a bad guy. And then when they redeem him, it's like, what? Why? I'm not attached to this person. Are we? Oh, we're caring about him now? I thought it was just some schmuck or something.
He's through the bow and arrow.
Yeah, I know.
I don't.
But he didn't have a look. He didn't have like a superhero suit. He's just an agent with a bow.
He has a suit.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like a suit. It looks like a shield uniform.
So is Hawkeye being underutilized a big enough qualm with this movie?
I have more. This is just one of a few. This one particular qualm is unfortunate. And I should say I like the way that they like Black Widow goes to talk to Hulk and he's like, yeah, I know what's going on here. And I've tried to kill myself. It doesn't work. It's not going to work for you either. And I like that, but I don't know. It's just...
I think every character in this movie, sans Hawkeye, is very compelling. I love the relationship between every character. The team feels like a true team, and they fight.
I think the conflict is good.
Yeah.
Between them, I like the moment when they're fighting with one another, and the Mind Stone like zooms in on the Mind Stone for a sec, like, ooh, is the Mind Stone corrupting them right now? And it's not. I don't think. It may be like, whatever.
Well, everything on the helicarrier in that movie is great,
and we don't know
it's
what's
a superhero
going on.
team movie that doesn't just go, hey, throw the team out there and let's see, let's just see them tear up a bunch of stuff, because that's kind of what some other ones do.
Yeah.
Avengers takes every character and does something interesting with them.
It feels like, I should say, it has all the best parts of Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes. Where everyone does, like you said, everyone has an arc. I think the mystery of, like, what is Loki planning? What's going on with Loki? Something is going on. I think Loki is a great conflict instigator. I'm willing to put
Loki's
this into...
great in this movie.
I'm willing to put this into excellent. I think it I could see why it deserves to go there. The
final battle of this movie sticks with you for a long time. Yes, now it is like every movie does Avengers. But when Avengers did Avengers, other movies hadn't done Avengers yet.
We have to also note that Captain America's costume was not good.
It's bad. It's not good. They mention it in later movies that it was terrible. The final battle in New York, and they're all teaming up with their different moves, and they do the panning camera shot of the whole team. It's the Avengers, man. I think it belongs in excellent.
I think it is a great way to portray this small amount of characters. Everyone's their time is utilized well, and I think that's a fault of the other ones, is they have a lot more characters to juggle, so it becomes less of a like family feeling movie to a bigger cast. And in moments like when they're in New York and there's Loki showing up, and there's the one guy who's like, I've bowed down to men like you before or whatever, and he won't do that. And then the Avengers show up. It's like, I don't know, there's these strong emotional themes and beats of unity and stuff that are nice. And I feel like it doesn't fit into the greater MCU after this moment.
Why?
Because after that, it becomes more about the supers and less about the emotions that are there with, like, fighting tyranny and oppression and stuff like that with I know that's not like the central theme of Loki being there, but there are those undertones that feel very more wholesome. And I think this is the last movie to do that, which isn't a fault of this movie.
I'm looking at this list we've got right here, and I'm seeing Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and I can't help but say that you're wrong.
Well, those are more self-contained. Like, they're...
I don't think Winter Soldier is self-contained at all.
No, but...
I think Avengers is a lot more self-contained than Winter Soldier is.
I think I'm trying to articulate something that's more complicated than I'm letting on, and I'm not sure how to say it. So we'll move on, and maybe my point will...
I think Avengers is a movie that opened the floodgates, and for that it deserves all the praise it can get.
I think that's part of what I was saying. It opens the floodgates, and a lot of good stuff came in through that. But I think there's also more bad that came in because of that too. But that's just that's just natural.
I think more bad came from movies that aren't from Marvel Studios.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I agree. Next.
Also came out the same year as The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's fine. It's definitely the weakest link in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Who's the villain in this one?
Bane.
Oh, yeah, fine.
It's not that interesting. I think, actually, I hate what they do with Batman in this movie. I think it totally, like, collapses everything I like about Batman in the previous movie. Because in The Dark Knight, it very much seems like Batman is taking on the responsibilities of Harvey Dent being Two-Face, because he knows that the city needs someone like Harvey Dent. They don't need Batman, but he's going to continue this crusade because he can do those things. And in The Dark Knight Rises, we find out that he hasn't been doing those things for almost a decade. And I don't think that's Batman. I think Batman's a character that will constantly fight for the people of Gotham City.
Yeah. I think this movie just doesn't have the same tone. It's weird. I don't know. I didn't remember liking this one very much. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I definitely would put it below the first and second movie.
Yeah. So. It's not... I think people were disappointed in it because it's not The Dark Knight, and it's not The Dark Knight. And I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's bad even. But it's just not that interesting, and it's not what I wanted from a sequel to The Dark Knight. It's not what I want from Batman. When I watch this movie, I just feel, I can't help but feel that Christopher Nolan missed a tick here, where I felt like he understands everything about Batman in the first two movies.
Yeah.
The third one, I just feel like he forgot, you know?
Yeah. It definitely feels like a different movie to me. G.I. Joe 2.
G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Garbage.
It's, I don't even remember. I don't think it's unwatchable. I don't remember.
I think it's at least terrible.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think it's garbage.
I hate everything about this movie.
It's got The Rock in it. Mm-hmm. Oh, Channing Tatum's character dies at the very beginning.
Yeah, which is, what? Why?
They have, okay. A couple things I remember about this movie. I hadn't seen it since it came out in theaters.
They're playing Call of Duty at one point in this movie.
I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters, but I remember like 3 or 4 things about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They have a cool mountainside in the ice fight.
Yeah.
Which is really just a ham-fisted way to bring in Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
But
they're the coolest people in
Snake
G.I. Joe.
Eyes is the coolest part about this movie.
And then, secondly, Channing Tatum dies at the very beginning. Bruce Willis is G.I. Joe. Like, they bring in, they're like, we gotta find Joe, and it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And, like, every dad in the audience went like, whoa, it's John McClane!
Yeah.
What, there was something else. The villains, I don't remember if it's King Cobra or if it's somebody else. I don't care.
I think it's King Cobra.
They, like, launch like, every nuclear missile in the world. And then The Rock has to, like, get a computer to, like, he has to find the laptop and, like, shut down every missile before they blow up. And it's like, dude, every nuclear missile in the world, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is, like, The Rock trying to find a franchise. And he did, eventually. But I think this was one where he was like, gotta get in on the ground floor on this.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, no more Channing Tatum. You're out, The Rock's in.
I think, too, the only reason I don't put it in garbage is because of Snake Eyes. He is a cool character. And I like his backstory. It's a cool little jaunt. It's not explored very much, but it's terrible still.
It's terrible. I don't think it's unwatchable.
Yeah, I agree.
Iron Man 3, I think, is good.
Okay. I like Killian as a villain.
Maybe he's fine.
he's not the strongest villain in the world. I didn't really like the Mandarin that much.
No,
but
that twist sucks.
The scene where he doesn't have his suit and he's sneaking into the mansion with all his cool little gadgets that he's made. Cool, one of my favorite Iron Man moments ever.
The Mandarin twist sucks, but they're retroactively changing that now. So, Iron Man 3, it's tonally really fun. I think Robert Downey Jr. is good in it.
I forget the kid's name, but he's not that important. Harley Davidson.
No, I don't care. He was in? Doesn't matter. He's a kid. He's the kid.
We're connected.
They do fun things with Tony in this movie. I think again tonally it's really fun. It's set at Christmas for some reason.
Yeah. I think I like the stakes of this feel very high, despite it not being that high.
Correct.
But the fact that, like, Tony is without a suit, he doesn't have backup. I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't like the whole Iron Patriot thing where they try to bring him in.
I think they wasted Iron Man 2 because I think Iron Man 3 is a really great final Iron Man movie. But I also think that they could have done more with the character while they had him in his own solo movies.
Yeah.
He definitely goes through a lot and has more to do after Iron Man 3. I would say most of his story is post Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like the Iron Man trilogy as a whole, it's good, but it could have been, like, fantastic if they had found a way to kind of portray all of the Iron Man lore and not kind of just go, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2 is meh, Iron Man 3 wastes the Mandarin because they wouldn't do the alien rings thing, which, like, I don't care if they didn't do the alien rings thing. Terrorist Mandarin is actually, like, if you watch the movie, he's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he poses a huge threat in this movie.
Yeah.
Until like halfway through the movie.
Yeah. Like you said, it's good.
Yeah.
But it could be better.
It could be better.
I think it's cool that Potts kind of got powers for a bit. She's also the one that kills him, which is kind of weird, but I also like it. I don't know. I think the last act is the weakest part of the movie, but I also think that it's cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that they got the president strung up in the Iron Patriot suit, and he's just like, "Hey, I'm here."
I'm hanging.
and both Tony and Rhodey are like, We're here, Mr. President. Let us get you out of this Iron Man suit.
I love the final battle with all the Iron Man suits flying around.
Which I like that he like puts on he's like putting on the different suits for a second and like break and he puts on another one real quick. I think that's a clever, cool little thing.
The Mark 42 suit that he has through most of this movie is it's a cool design for the suit. It's mostly golden. I was super excited to see it. It's kind of played off for jokes in the way that, because like it's always breaking, and it's like, oh, the suit broke again. It's like, I don't know, Iron Man, maybe get a better suit. If you have all these suits at your disposal, maybe get a better suit.
Yeah.
I don't know why he keeps putting on the one. He even at the end of the movie, he's got every suit he's ever made to choose from, and he sees the Mark 42. I don't care, the new one, and he goes, "The prodigal son returns," and he puts it on, and it's like, why that one?
Yeah.
That's your least useful costume. It keeps breaking.
Next up, we got a Kick-Ass 2.
I've heard it's worse than Kick-Ass 1.
I would put it in bad or fine. I've not seen it.
Haven't seen it
I'm
either.
gonna put it in fine.
Sure.
Actually, I'm gonna put it
Put it in fine
for now.
only because we haven't seen it.
And also, Kick-Ass 1 is definitely better. So good to fine. Kick-Ass 1 being good. Kick-Ass 2 being fine sounds right.
Ooh, Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
This one is
At least good, if not excellent.
See, I'm tempted to put it in excellent, but I'm pressured to put it in good. But if you want to put it in excellent,
I'll put it
I'm
in
down
excellent.
to clown.
I really... This is my favorite DC movie, I feel like.
It's my favorite DC movie.
I really love... I think my favorite moment of this movie is when the tornado comes in and he just sees... I forget his name. Whatever his surrogate father is. Die. And he's like, I could have saved him, but I couldn't have.
Yeah. I think this movie has a lot of very strong emotion. This is the beginning of Zack Snyder's delve into... Well, he made Watchmen.
Yeah.
But this is the beginning of Zack Snyder's delve into the mainstream DC universe.
Amy Lee Adams is fun.
Yeah, Amy Adams.
Well, yeah, same thing. Her middle name is Lee. I call her
Is
Amy.
it?
In like all of her promo stuff, it's like Amy Lee Adams, but
I've never heard Amy Lee Adams, but okay.
maybe it was just Enchanted. Disney had Amy Lee Adams.
Sure.
On. Does that count as a superhero? I'm just kidding. Amy Adams, I like as
she's a really good Lois. She feels
different.
She's different, and she feels more capable than Margot Kidder's Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Margot Kidder's Lois Lane never felt like a good journalist, and Lois Lane in this movie feels capable in that not just, I can take care of myself way, but in a way that's like, I'm efficient and I have a goal, I have goals of my own.
She literally like finds out Clark Kent's home and interrogates his mother basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Finds him.
Cool. Yeah.
Finds the man who has been hiding his whole life.
Yeah.
And I think that is what makes this movie so great to me is you get this look at Superman that's not... It doesn't have to be dark or it doesn't have to be cheesy or bright or whatever, but it's about an outsider who finds his place. And I think that's more compelling than some other Superman movies we've seen.
It really captures that human emotion. Especially, another thing that really stood out to me was as a kid when he's like in school and he's like dealing with this sensory overload stuff. And it's like, you're asking a God-powered child to like be more mature than his fellow kindergartners. That's like, blows my brain. And it's super cool. And I don't know, I always love that sort of like, you have to be responsible and kind. You can't just be powerful and responsible. Kindness is required.
The scene where Jonathan Kent shows Clark the pod in the farm, and he tells Clark that he's an alien. kind of makes me cry every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Because I think that feeling of, being an outsider in a world that doesn't really accept you for who you are, I think that's a super compelling idea.
Yeah.
And
it's something I've always related to, with my history and everything. It's always stuck with me. And I think the weakest part of this movie is the General Zod stuff, which I loved.
You think so?
I loved. I shouldn't say General Zod as the character. The little stick thing. I forget what it's called. That they're trying to with the
codex.
The codex. That's like It's MacGuffin. It's not. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's just there for plot reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like we're trying to terraform Earth and make the genetically perfect, like that's what our society was. We made genetically perfect people that were designed for these things. Wasn't super compelling to me, and it makes Superman's origin feel less good. Like his people weren't good people. And that's that's a thing in the comics that touched on that. There's the whole racism thing with blah 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 comic lore stuff, but I don't know, it just subtracted to me from Superman's origin. Like his parents may not have been good people, his society wasn't good people.
Maybe, but I think that makes Superman's turn as a hero even more compelling because he's suppressed his whole life, right? Yeah. He's from this civilization, which he's not in touch with the civilization, but thematically speaking, he comes from this Krypton that's very oppressive, and he comes to Earth, and his father tells him his whole life, like, he's not like, you need to hide this, you can never be this thing, but he openly says to him, like, hey, one of these days you're going to have to make this choice, and it's going to change the world, it's going to change you, it's going to change everything. And I think that is great.
Yeah.
I think Krypton is awesome.
I think it looks cool. I think
the weird council of like people who are like, we don't believe in global warming. Like, I think that's weird.
Yeah, I think that's what I should say. That is the weird part for me, is the Krypton politics and everything is the weird part. But everything else is great. That's the first 5-10 minutes of the movie anyway. So
General Zod is a great villain.
He's a good villain.
He's a great foil to Superman.
Yes.
And I love his scenes with Clark where he's kind of learning to use his powers.
Yeah.
And the fight scenes in this movie,
look
god tier. The Smallville fight is probably one of the best superhero fights ever.
Our friend Kais was talking about how amazing this Man of Steel fights are, and he wishes that more movies like that embraced the...
I do too.
Especially like Superman being, again, one of the most powerful beings in this universe.
Well, Superman punches General Zod, and it makes a sonic wave. And
he follows up with a straight up another punch, and
it makes another sonic wave, and they're flying into space, and they're busting through buildings. And let me say on the record, Superman does not do that much destruction in this movie. People like to throw around that Superman tears up a bunch of stuff in this movie. Most of the destruction happens from the World Engine, terraforming the Earth.
Yeah,
but even then, Superman does do some questionable things in this movie. Like, he kills General Zod, and that's a point of controversy with this movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's a compelling scene, and he doesn't just, kill General Zod.
He's there, he's struggling. He has him in his arms, and he's like, I have the choice right now, either your life or theirs.
Literally begs General Zod to stop what he's doing. General Zod doesn't. He kills him and then cries about
immediately. That's a moment to me that is... I know people say, Superman's a Jesus figure or whatever, it's a meme, whatever. But that, to me, feels, again, like your son or your brother or your child is corrupted, and you love them, and you want them to be able to be redeemed. But at that point, it's redemption or someone else's actual life, and it's a family there too. I don't know, that moment is again one of my favorite moments in that movie. And for people to say that he kills someone is a bad thing, it would be if it wasn't framed right, and if it wasn't earned. It was earned in that moment.
Can we talk about the score of this movie real quick?
Amazing.
It's bomb, dude.
The Superman theme?
Hans Zimmer
Popped
is obviously an excellent composer.
Mm-hmm.
He came off of like Inception and The Dark Knight Rises and, you know, some other projects, and did Man of Steel. Probably my favorite superhero score ever.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's theme, baller.
Yeah.
General Zod's little music cues, baller. There's a track on the soundtrack called Oil Rig. Huge war drums. It sounds like Mad Max. It's man.
Also, Superman.
Incredible soundtrack.
Superman with a beard. Kind of cool. I love him in the water, like the after he
stops the oil rig, or he doesn't stop it, he saves the guys.
And
it definitely still blows up.
He's just in the water. I think the actor had talked about how like he was in there so long, he literally like felt peaceful, like he was. Yeah.
Didn't even mention yet. Henry Cavill is the best choice for Superman you could get.
Yeah.
I think he is like a quintessential Superman casting.
Yeah.
He's perfect. He's got the physique, he's got the look, and he has charm that you get to see in this movie a little bit more than some of the other ones.
Yeah. I didn't particularly felt super attached to his Clark Kent, but that's also not... He doesn't become the nerdy, weird Clark Kent for very long, so...
That's the thing. He isn't Clark Kent in this movie. He's Superman.
Yeah.
And then he gets to become Clark Kent. And I think they explore that some in the director's cut of the second one.
Yeah.
Not very much in the theatrical version, which we're going to talk about. Yeah. But Man of Steel is... I think it's the best Superman movie. I think it definitely deserves to be an excellent.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we agree on that. Because Man of Steel is a great movie.
R.I.P.D. It's fine or bad?
I'd say it's bad.
Bad, I agree.
It's boring.
The premise is cool.
It's cool. They do this weird thing. I wasn't going to put R.I.P.D. on here, but it is based on a comic book, and I put Men in Black on here. And it's just
it's the same
Men in
vein.
Black, but it's magic.
Yeah.
So...
It's fine.
I put...
it's bad. It's in bad.
It's bad.
It's in the category of bad.
It's weird. There's a... Don't they, like... They keep body morphing Jeff Bridges into somebody. Why?
I think doesn't he body morph into some like hot woman
at
some
woman,
point? And it's like, oh, hot woman.
It's like, whoa, Jeff Bridges is hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, weird. Weird movie. Weird action.
Not much else
Not
to
very
say.
funny. Yeah, no, it's bad.
Wolverine.
The Wolverine,
where he has...
I think it's good.
I think it's good, too. I like the villain, like that he's an adamantium samurai,
yeah.
Gundam, basically. Like,
I don't think the final fight is super compelling, but every other fight is really awesome.
I like the characters; they're fun.
This is Wolverine action at its peak.
The romance is fine.
Bro, I don't even remember.
It's not like even it's not like a central piece, but he has like kind of a
yeah. Right. I think Yukiko is cool.
Yeah.
She's slicing people up. There's an unrated cut of this movie, which, I mean, it doesn't add that much, but it is really sick.
I like the premise of him just being in Japan.
Yeah, it's weird. None of the 3 Wolverine movies are super connected. Like that's not really a trilogy.
For sure.
But
this movie is... You could watch this almost outside of all of the Wolverine / X-Men movies and have it be its own thing.
Yeah. I think the Wolverine is great. I think Hugh Jackman is fantastic in this movie.
Yeah.
It's a great standalone Wolverine movie. Awesome action.
Thor: The Dark World. Terrible or bad?
It's not as bad as Green
I think
Lantern.
it's bad.
Here's the thing, I want to like trash this movie, but when it's next to Jonah Hex and Green Lantern and Ghost Rider, like it doesn't belong there.
I like that Loki dies, kind of. He pretends to die. I think I like that Jane goes into Asgard and actually gets to see some things.
Yeah.
But
I enjoy how much more epic this movie tries to feel.
I love the scene where they're in the like abandoned place and they're like messing with the portals or whatever. They're like
I think the best action sequence in this movie is where the like dark elves come to Asgard and start tearing stuff up, and you see Heimdall like jump on the ship and like cut it down the side.
Yeah.
cool action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we both know that this movie is boring.
Mm-hmm. I don't care about the Dark
snooze
Elves.
fest.
I don't care about really the reality stone, that which we don't even know is reality stone at the point. But
It's the ether.
yeah, which I think it's cool that it of all the stones, it is the one that is like an organic substance, and it becomes like a thing that enters Jane, which is weird. Out of all the people in the world, of course it had to be Jane Foster. But
Yeah. Again, the Earth stuff in this movie is not super compelling. Darcy, I was complaining about Darcy earlier. Darcy's terrible in this movie. Darcy is at her least funny. Least okay. There's a funny meter. Darcy's at the bottom. Darcy's also at the top. Darcy in this movie's at the bottom.
Gotcha.
It's boring. They give Darcy her own sidekick, so she's the goofy sidekick.
Yeah.
And then she has her own sidekick.
I remember that now. Yeah, not fun.
Not fun.
The final battle's not fun.
Oh, it's boring.
It's just like
it's dumb.
we're in like DC or something, like this
London,
important building. Oh no, it's getting destroyed.
Oh, we're getting sucked through the portals.
Yeah.
It's not memorable.
Yeah.
It doesn't do really anything for Thor, to the point where A, they went a completely different direction in the next one, and B, the one plot thread they set up in that movie was like done.
Gone.
We're done with it.
Big Hero 6 though, I think good or excellent. I think more good.
Good. It's good. It belongs in the you put it in the wrong one, but it belongs with like Megamind. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Big Hero 6 is fun, charming. It's got good characters, good dialogue, good moments, it has emotional beats.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing is Campbell, the villain, being like, that was my daughter, or whatever. Let me go back. Campbell being like, Big Heroes, I can't speak today. Hiro Hamada is my prodigy student or whatever, as well as his brother, and I'm this kind of father figure at the moment.
Yeah.
And then also, I burned down this place and basically am willing to kill people now. I mean,
Right.
like there's this moment where he takes off the mask and they see that it's Campbell, and Hero's like, what are you doing? What? And he's like, that was their mistake. And it's this really big dramatic moment, and then Hero's like, well, I'm gonna kill him. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like Campbell as a character just, it didn't make sense, his motivation. Right. But everything else in this movie is great.
I think the whole team is super fun. It's a great Disney movie. The action's great. Soundtrack's okay. I think all of the characters are very compelling. Hero's a great protagonist. Baymax is, of course, iconic. I don't know. It's a very fun ride.
And the emotion of like getting over grief is a really powerful thing to go through, especially for that young of a character. For
Disney to do another animated superhero movie with Incredibles already out, I think to set it apart so much from that is something really cool.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job at building a world that feels like organically different from ours.
San Francisco just looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Hero 6 is really good. Definitely.
Winter Soldier?
Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Excellent. One of my favorite Marvel movies.
You want to know what I think? God tier.
God tier? I'm willing. God tier.
Captain America the Winter Soldier is probably one of the best superhero movies ever made.
I love the spy feel kind of it. I say this a lot. Another one of my favorite tropes is the hero versus the world. I love Captain America. I literally watched this movie a couple nights ago. Captain America and Black Widow's dynamic in this movie, and the whole, well, I think you're in the wrong business then, Steve. It's just a cool thing to see this hero of World War II now have to cope with the complex corruptness of modern society. And I think my least favorite part of the movie is the Winter Soldier, if I'm being honest. It's, he's there as this brooding beast that we don't know who he is or whatever until the end, and then it's like, oh, it's Bucky. And that's not to say he's bad. I think he's still good, but I think out of everything in this movie, that's my little thing I'm least interested in.
This movie's interesting because Marvel said, okay, we're doing something completely different with Captain America. Who do we get for a spy thriller? The guys who directed some of Community. And it works.
Yeah.
Marvel took a huge gamble with Joe and Anthony Russo, and I think it paid off because their 4 movies in the MCU, I think, are all incredible. Mm-hmm. I think all 4 of them, we're probably not going to put them in God tier, but I think all of them could be up there. Mm-hmm. Winter Soldier does everything right with Captain America. It's a heroic hero movie. Mm-hmm. It has awesome action sequences. Another really good score, too. Mm-hmm. Captain America the Winter Soldier is just one of the more unforgettable Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why that, like, elevator scene where he's like, well, before we start, does anybody want to get out? Is such a, like, iconic scene for Captain America, too. I think it really does a good job of playing up, like, how powerful he is, especially even just like at the beginning of how fast he's running with like Sam at the beginning. He's like, on your left. Again, there's so many quotable things in this movie, man. Yeah. I quote on your left all the time. But yeah, it's a good amazing movie, and that's all I have to say about it.
And Marvel had a banger year in 2014 because I think Guardians of the Galaxy also belongs in God tier.
I would put it in excellent, but well, why do you think it deserves to be in God tier instead of excellent?
Because this movie is going to be one of our classics of all time, right? This movie is pretty standalone, and everything about it is enjoyable. I don't think I can find a single bad thing to say about Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got a great soundtrack, incredible visual, probably the most visually stunning movie in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Maybe Infinity War Endgame.
It definitely sets itself apart immediately.
All of the characters are super compelling. Even the villain, who is not that interesting, still manages to be threatening and cool.
I think my biggest qualm with this movie is Drax. I don't really like Drax in this movie. He's, a dumb brute guy that doesn't say a lot of things or whatever. He's not that interesting.
Sure, but Drax being dumb extends past like how I think they kind of treat him in the second movie, past him being like, oh, Drax is dumb, and he's more like, well, he doesn't understand figures of speech.
And I would be fine with that being him, but he literally summons blue villain guy to them, thinking he's going to like defeat him on his own, and like endangers everyone.
Yeah,
and that's the only thing that I have a problem with this movie. Otherwise, Drax is my only problem with this movie. That he's okay. He's not amazing. Everyone else is amazing. I will put it in God tier.
Great casting too. James Gunn did a fantastic job picking out this cast. James Gunn. Another huge gamble from Marvel. The guy who was at Tromeo and then made a very low budget horror movie and then made Super, and they're like, give him a movie with a talking raccoon and he has a gun. Like, insane gamble that gave us one Guardians of the Galaxy movie I really like, another Guardians of the Galaxy movie that I don't really like, and a Suicide Squad movie that looks to be promising. I mean, I think this movie, when it's all said and done, this movie is going to be one of the superhero movies that we really have stand out. Like, it's a household name. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the MCU's, I've said it before, but I think the MCU's kind of our generation's Star Wars. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy might be the most solid adventure out of them all.
There's a reason why at every single place that sells vinyls, you'll find the awesome soundtrack on vinyl somewhere.
Because it's a good soundtrack.
Good picks for sure.
Yeah, I think Guardians of the Galaxy deserves God tier. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 2014.
Michael Bay produced this?
Produced, not directed. Have you seen the Turtles?
I've seen this. But when it first came out,
remember it?
And I tuned out the entire time.
It's not a good Turtles movie.
I would say terrible or bad, but again, I don't remember anything about this movie.
It's put it in terrible.
Okay.
I think the designs of the turtles are
gross,
super disinteresting. They look like cave trolls from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, there's nothing particularly enjoyable about this movie. I think all of the Michael Bay-isms are here on full display in a way they aren't in the second one. And I feel like it kind of has similar problems to The Amazing Spider-Man, where they try to go a little edgier with it, and the turtles are just kind of mean.
Yeah, and it like even just like visually, there's a lot of shadow. It's like very dark, especially on the turtles. Like that's all I remember is like I was like, there's so much shadow on this because it seems like they're hiding the flaws in the CGI.
And I think the second movie is literally called Out of the Shadows, but I think they saw that and went, okay, the turtles don't need to be dark and weird. The final battle takes place on like a rooftop. Again, it looks very much like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's on like a rooftop, and Shredder is trying to activate a thing or whatever. I don't
remember. Does Mikey ever skateboard or do anything?
Mikey does skateboard. Mikey's goofy in this movie. They're not terrible versions of the turtles even. I just don't think they're very compelling. Shredder's not good in this movie either. Which Shredder is one of my favorite parts of TMNT. Yeah. Not the movie, the franchise. So, TMNT 2014 is just not all that. It's not that bad, but it's not anything to call home about, you know.
Speaking of home, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Not Spider-Man Homecoming. The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I was going to say, no way this came out that close to it. It's because it's not.
It's not. It's The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
The poster looks bright. I didn't feel like the movie was that bright.
I think it is. I think they went out of their way to...
Make this one lighter than the other one.
Make this one lighter. But
I'll put in bad.
Yeah, me too.
Too much is going on.
It's way too crowded, and not in the Spider-Man 3 way. Spider-Man 3 is crowded because it has too many characters.
This one's just dramatic.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has so many different storylines happening at once.
We got spy parents. We got friend that's come out of nowhere who's rich.
Green Goblin.
And wants spider blood.
Electro.
Gwen's father dying, and also the relationship stuff that comes with that.
Not great relationship stuff either. I think the relationship stuff is a standout in that movie, but I think especially at the beginning, it's just like, man, why are you doing this? The swinging in this movie is so visually stunning. They went very over budget with it. Yeah, but Electro. I don't think Electro himself looks great, but all of the like action sequences with him, awesome.
Great. The like him teleporting between like not Tesla coils, but at the end of the fight where he's going from like electric pole thing to thing, and they're fighting. That's very cool looking.
The suit is fantastic. I would say it's. I think I would comfortably say it's the best live action one. It's not my favorite one. I think Raimi's suit from 2 is better than it. But
for the longest time, this was my favorite suit. Was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit.
It's a great suit. I think Peter's better in this movie. I think he's more heroic in this movie.
The music's fun. I like the Electro Spider-Man's My Enemy song. It's cool.
The Electro theme is sick.
I think it's cool that like we see the vision of Electro, like seeing electricity through everything, and it's in people and stuff. It's
the movement and action of this movie reminds me of Man of Steel in a way that's like, this is how Spider-Man should feel.
Yeah, especially like when Electro first is there, and I think my favorite scene in this movie is when he's trying to talk down Electro, and they're like about to touch the pole, like the rest, whatever you call them, when they're going down the stairs, and he like has to time his webbing to web all of them so that they don't touch the metal while also one of his things are broken. That felt like a video game moment to me, where it's like you had quickly do this quick time event to web these people, and it's like he has his spider sense to be able to do those things quickly. It felt like a really like cool hero moment for me. I really like that. That scene is my favorite scene.
Transformers 4.
What's
this one called?
No idea.
Transformers
Jurassic Park.
Age of Extinction. Question mark?
He's got a sword.
Mark Wahlberg is in this one.
Terrible.
Yep.
Garbage?
I think this one could be garbage. This is a terrible movie. Okay, this movie came out when I was 12, and I still thought it was terrible. It's bad, dude. It's a bad Transformers movie. It's a bad action movie.
It doesn't utilize... I vaguely remember watching this movie. It doesn't utilize any of the awesome dinosaur bots at all. those are my favorite Transformers, and they don't even use them in cool ways.
Optimus Prime is like, again, just kind of like, I'm doing a speech and we're going to defeat the Decepticons, and it just feels like another Transformers movie. Really, like, why are we doing this right now? And yeah, it's bad. All the human characters are stupid in this movie. They're so dumb. Mark Wahlberg's daughter is explicitly, like they say this, she's underage, and the movie is like, you know, having these shots that are like looking at her butt, and like she has a boyfriend who is overage, and he's like, oh well, there's a specific law that lets me date her, and it's like, why are we doing this?
Why is that important?
Why do we need why?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's unwatchable, dude. Nobody needs to see Transformers 4.
Well, something that's not unwatchable.
Something that I think is on the exact opposite side of the spectrum from Transformers 4.
X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
I'm willing to put it
God
in that
tier.
I personally don't enjoy this movie more than First Class, but the story of Days of Future Past is one of my favorite comic book stories. I wish that it wasn't Logan that got sent through time. I think it would have been really cool to see Kitty Pryde fall through time, like she does in the comics. I'm not super fresh on that, what it looks like in the comics, but it didn't super make sense that Kitty could like mind send someone back to their old body rather than her falling through time.
But I think it's a good excuse to have the central character here. And because Wolverine and Xavier's relationship is core to this movie.
And it makes sense because also, like, in First Class, they try to approach Logan and even bring that up, like, you're that asshole that was in the bar that one time that, like, told us to screw off. I think that's cool. I don't mind Logan. I really would have wished to see more Kitty, you know.
I think this movie does more compelling stuff with the past cast. The future cast gets to shine in a really cool way. I love the part where they're kind of dropping like flies and like the clock is ticking for Logan to finish what he's doing. Days of Future Past is kind of like Spider-Man 2 for me, in that it's like, I think this movie's everything a superhero movie needs to be. I think it's the best X-Men movie. I think it's like top 5 superhero movies for me. The Quicksilver scene speaks for itself.
Yeah.
The one where he's running around the kitchen.
My favorite thing is I forget what they're called, the big purple things. The
Sentinels.
The Sentinels is one of my favorite X-Men things. I love the apocalyptic feel of the Sentinels. Yeah. I think it's cool that they use Mystique's blood to be adaptive. I don't know if that's a comic thing or not, but I like her getting shot in the leg, and it's the blood from that thing that they use. That's a cool little thing.
The little ripples through time are really cool to see. I love the setting. They utilize, I think it's set in 1973. They utilize that time period very well, and I think it is one of the best Wolverine movies.
I didn't like the fact that Xavier had to choose between like his powers and standing. I didn't like I don't know. I feel like he would be fine with being paralyzed. Like,
sure, but I think James McAvoy's Xavier is positioned like that so that he can have a sort of redemption arc. I love that scene where Xavier talks to himself in the future through Logan. Yeah, that's such a compelling scene, dude. The Rogue cut of this movie, I feel like, is unnecessary. It's kind of redundant. They have this whole scene where they have to go get Rogue because Kitty gets injured and Rogue is stealing her powers. And it's all right, but it's not super necessary. I think this movie moves at a clip, and it's enjoyable to the end.
I feel like we're gonna disagree on Ant-Man.
We've talked about Ant-Man. I think it's fine.
I think it's fine. I think it's good. I really enjoy.
I'm looking at the other movies in good, and I think it probably could go in good.
I'm gonna put Ant-Man in good.
Ant-Man 1 can go in good.
I think Paul Rudd is compelling. I know one of your biggest complaints is that Edgar Wright had kind of.
So every time I talk about this movie, I need to bring up that for years this was an Edgar Wright movie, and I'm a big sucker for Edgar Wright. So this movie feels like it has his fingerprints on it, but it doesn't feel like it's made by Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
And that's because it's not.
I can agree.
They got Peyton Reed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's enjoyable, but it's Ant-Man. That just it feels like someone else's movie, the way Ant-Man 2 doesn't. But also, Ant-Man 2 doesn't have those charming Edgar Wright qualities to it.
I gotta say, I don't like the whole, I forget the character's name, but where they like recap what's happened, and he does it like,
Luis?
it's the bit like 3 times. I'm like, okay, I get it, it's funny. He has really long rambly stories he tells, haha, funny.
It's a very fun superhero heist movie. And that's the bit with Luis moving back through him telling the stories, and the casting, and the fact that it feels like a unpolished character and movie. I think that's where I'm like,
it holds it back.
This is Edgar Wright's fingerprints on this movie. You can tell that he made very distinct choices, and I feel like it just kind of falls short because I don't know. It feels like Peyton Reed playing in Edgar Wright's sandbox, and in the next one, Peyton Reed gets his own sandbox to play in.
Yeah.
But I think it's better than Ant-Man 2. And it's really fun. I enjoy this movie when I watch it.
I like Paul Rudd, but I gotta say, when I first heard about this movie, I was mad because I love Ant-Man,
you want
and
Hank.
I wanted Hank Pym.
I
was
also
like, I
love
want
Hank.
Hank Pym and Wasp to like be the original.
Yeah.
But I do really like the fact that they're like, oh, this is the first era of superheroes. They were alive when Captain America was around. I like that they did that instead of just getting rid of him. I know, Scott Lang becomes Ant-Man later in the comics or whatever, but I would have. I think one of my favorite things is I was expecting Ultron, and Hank Pym is my favorite part of Ultron. It's a mirror image of Hank Pym. He created Ultron, and it's his, like, hubris and pride that kind of perpetuates Ultron. And I was disappointed that didn't happen, but they kind of used Tony as a stand-in for that later. But Paul Rudd won me over, despite me expecting Hank Pym.
I think Ant-Man is really fun, and I think looking at the other movies in good, it belongs in good.
So our next movie is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I don't like this movie. I think it's boring.
As I was saying about Ant-Man, I was hyped for Ultron. Ultron is one of my favorite, probably because of Avengers, Heroes of Tomorrow or whatever. The idea of Ultron being this big bad.
Next Avengers, that animated movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's from
right.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where they have their kids fight Ultron in the future. You know what I'm talking about?
We're talking about different things, but I also know the other thing
I'm pretty sure
it's
called Avengers: Heroes of Tomorrow, something like that.
Sure.
In that, Ultron is this superimposing threat that's like you can't kill him because he's a robot and technology's in everything, and he keeps like rebuilding and renewing himself. And Ultron wasn't just a thing that was like, oh, you made one Ultron and it was there. Hank Pym had made several different iterations of Ultron, and Ultron robots were guards for like the negative zone and everything. They were like just like Jarvis, they were around. And for Age of Ultron to turn into a week of Ultron was disappointing.
I think this movie, well, I'll just say some things I like about it. Because James Spader is really good as Ultron.
Definitely. Best casting, different, besides, of course, the core cast.
Yeah. That's it.
I like the scene at the house.
I like the tone of some of this movie, and then some of it's way too hokey for me.
Yeah.
It feels like a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. It's the worst qualities of a Joss Whedon script.
I like Scarlet Witch.
It's quippy.
Yeah.
It's too silly sometimes. And I don't know, I just don't feel like anything in the third act is super compelling.
Yeah.
I like Scarlet Witch. Not a huge fan of Quicksilver. But why kill him?
Yeah, it was weird for them to introduce him and then immediately kill him. I think it was almost entirely because of the fight over the character with Fox. They were like, we're not gonna have two versions of Quicksilver at the same time, so we can't introduce Scarlet Witch without Quicksilver.
Sure.
So we're gonna do it and then kill him, which to me was cheap, and I didn't like his characterization too much. We didn't see him very much.
Yeah. Well, and imagine if the MCU in Civil War and Infinity War had a speedster.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how cool that power set would be in these event movies.
I didn't like the animation of his running very much. It was okay.
It's all right.
But
it's different from Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy.
At this moment in time, we have WandaVision coming out. And we just have Evan Peters Quicksilver introduced. Last thing that we've seen is he's knocked on the door. And he's like, "Hey, I'm your big brother. Give your brother a hug."
Uh-huh.
And so we don't know what they're doing with Quicksilver at this point. But
it seems like in the future they're going to utilize Quicksilver better than both companies did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in general, I would say Age of Ultron is fine.
I would say fine is a good place to put it.
I would put it in good if there wasn't so much holding it back.
A sequel to the Avengers deserved way better.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very next movie the Avengers appear in, it's Ant-Man and Avengers Age of Ultron kind of put me off that year because Marvel movies just didn't interest me that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year they came out with Civil War, and it was so much stronger.
I should say, I think I like Age of Ultron more than you do.
You do.
I do enjoy it. It's a movie that I would rewatch and enjoy still. But I think it's understandable to put it in fine.
Yeah.
I would put it about on the same level as Ant-Man for me, but Ant-Man is in good.
I think Ant-Man is more compelling in general than Avengers 2.
Fantastic Four.
Hold on. Now hang on.
Ooh.
Fanforstic.
That's what I was about to say. Fantaforstic. There's a T. Fantaforstic.
This is one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Garbage.
It is unwatchable. Fantastic Four.
The casting is weird.
It's weird.
Weird as heck. Why is Reed like a 20-something?
They're all very young. They're not even 20-something because they have them in high school. Okay.
They're in high school?
We're going to rant about Fantastic Four for a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
They're in high school in this movie, and there's a scene at the beginning where Reed and Ben are at their at their science fair, and Sue and Sue's dad come around, and they're like, "Oh, well, we see you're going places. Come to the Baxter Building, and we'll hire you or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
But every other, because high schoolers in movies a lot of the time are like 30.
Yeah.
So you've got Miles Teller, who's like 30.
And he's also played many teenagers. He was like in Divergent and stuff.
But every other extra in that scene is like 14 years old.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So the main cast is all way too young. It takes forever for anything to happen in this movie. It's not what you would want from the Fantastic Four. They went darker with it. They went a lot more boring with it. Toby Kebbell as Victor Von Doom is a terrible casting choice and a terrible adaptation of Doctor Doom.
I didn't like the way Thing looked.
Thing
he was
looks
okay.
Weird, dude. He doesn't wear pants. And that's something about the Michael Chiklis version of the Thing that I enjoyed. I think the design it's kind of cheesy, and you can tell that it's a suit, but it's charming.
Yeah. This
is just it's a bad CGI rock man. He's grumpy. You can barely tell what he's saying at all. They spend so much time setting this movie up, and then they get powers, and then like halfway through the movie it says 1 year later. And then the rest of the movie is not the Fantastic Four united. They don't get together until like the very end of the movie to fight Doctor Doom, who just suddenly appears and he's like blowing people's heads up with like psychic energy or something. It's so boring, and the dialogue sucks. Not even like, wow, I'm bored by this dialogue. It's like, what were you thinking? I don't know what they were thinking with this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's not Catwoman. It's bad in a different way. But it's I would never recommend this movie to my worst enemy. Fantastic Four 2015 doesn't deserve to be talked about.
It hurts.
It hurts me. It hurts me to think about. I guess next week we're starting with probably the most controversial superhero movie of all time.
I think that's deserving to be the next episode starter.
Sure.
I agree with this so far. I think God tier being Captain America, Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and X-Men Days of Future Past is not what I expected it to be, but I am okay with that.
It is what I expected it to be.
I kind of want...
I'm glad we put Man of Steel in excellent.
I almost want to put Man of Steel in God tier if Days of Future Past is there, but...
I do too.
I don't know.
But
I would rather move Days of Future Past down to excellent, but I think that they're about the same level quality to me.
I personally would put Man of Steel in God tier. I think it's that good. I think there's also arguments to be had for it to not be.
I'm gonna leave it in excellent.
I would too. Because I don't think it's Winter Soldier level.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree. We didn't watch Dredd, so that's one I don't know. But I agree with everything else in good.
I'd move Men in Black 3 down, but that's just me.
With everything else that's here, you know what? I'll move it down. It's like here, right?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good tier list for this.
Fine.
We got a lot more discussion out of some of these
for sure
than last time.
I don't think any of these I would move any other ones. Maybe G.I. Joe I'd put into garbage, but you know.
I haven't seen it in long enough. Here's the thing. I can't tell you how much I hate Fantastic Four. I can't put into words how garbage that movie is.
Yeah.
It's a dumpster fire inside of a dumpster fire.
I've only heard people talk about how awful that movie. I've not heard a single good thing, or even anyone try to argue that it is possibly not as bad as people say.
We've heard in the last few years, with the whole release the Snyder Cut movement and that actually working. We've had all these discussions about release the Joel Schumacher cut of Batman Forever, release. I don't know what other cuts of movies exist, but we've heard a lot of discussion about releasing cuts of movies, and every time I hear release the Josh Trank cut of Fantastic Four, I'm like, I'm sure he means well. I like Chronicle. He made Chronicle, and then he made Fantastic Four. There was studio meddling. They did reshoot some of the stuff, but I hate this version of the Fantastic Four from the very beginning, and with all of the controversy we've heard on set about that movie, it's just, sure, artistic integrity, if the Snyder Cut is happening, why not? But if any amount of money needs to be put into Fantastic Four, the original movie was unwatchable. At least Justice League is not unwatchable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I want to pretend that movie doesn't exist, honestly.
I would almost argue that it doesn't belong to be in the category superhero movie just because of how bad it is.
It's not even really a superhero movie. It's about like people in a lab or something.
Yeah.
That's it though. 2010 through 2015.
Yeah. I think it was a solid time. A good start. You can really tell that this was a start of a lot of things. And once we get into more sequel territory and building off the world territory, it has a different...
And Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice territory.
Yeah. We'll do that next time. Anyway, thanks guys for listening. Yeah. Yeah. Bye.